Welcome in to another episode of Another Damn Fantasy Podcast here presented by Bite Size Sports. As I said in the cold open, Chiefs going for their third straight Super Bowl. So I got to show off the new back-to-back flag. I know some of you Chiefs fans out there got yours this morning as well. We're pretty pumped here in Kansas City for what we call Red Wednesday, usually Red Friday, but Red Wednesday this year. We are a round deep here in our ADP fantasy, 2 rounds actually deep already in our fantasy league. As always, and back from last week, Josh is here. Josh, you've got 2 picks in. Been a busy man. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great, actually. I like the Bijan pick. That's who I got at 4 overall. And I think he has the potential to be close to the RB1 this season, so I'm happy about that. And then I followed that up with Chris Olave, who I wasn't sure was going to fall all the way to me. It's kind of right in his sweet spot, so it's not super surprising either, but I think he has wide receiver 1 written on him as well. So I like my start so far.
Yeah, a couple of interesting picks in the first couple rounds. We'll get to all of those picks here before too long. Unfortunately, our main man Kev is on their Han Solo show, as they do every single Wednesday night. So he's been auto drafting. The first auto draft out of the 101 spot's always easy, but he's on the turn right now, so we'll see how this ends up. We'll show you the board and everything else. We'll also talk through some NFL news. We'll give our player takes as we work through this final fantasy draft of the football season. This league, ADP, it's a obviously our show league. We'll talk about it throughout the year. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end. We do 2 flex and then a defense and a kicker. So just to kind of tee it up, it is a PPR league. It's pretty standard with most everything there that you're going to see. Josh is about to be on the clock here, so I'm going to pull this up so everybody can kind of get a feel for where we're at in the draft and what Josh is going to do. Josh, what are you thinking about here?
Yeah, so my first gut instinct was I need to get back on the receiver train. But since we're a 2-receiver league, it's not as imperative. So if Kevin is listening back to this, he just took 3 running backs to start. That's a little on the rough side, but in a 2-receiver league, he might be able to come back from that. Especially if Achane is the game breaker we think he might be able to be. I was kind of hoping Pacheco would fall to me, and then I'd be kind of set at running back going forward. But right now I'm looking at that makes my decision for me. I was thinking going to go with the consistency of Mike Evans, but I think I'm going to stick here, and I'm going to go with now I'm having last minute. No, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go Sam Laporta here. I just think the Lions offense, I know he's wasn't the highest ranked. Kelsey. Oh, yep. There's Kelsey goes right after. I actually don't always try to go for Laporta, but I don't feel like it was a reach there. I feel like it was good value to start the tight end run. And again, I feel like I wanted to go receiver if I had to pick, but I was kind of leaning towards Mike Evans since he went to pick before me. I figured I could wait a little bit. So,
absolutely. I started my round, my draft with Jahmyr Gibbs and Marvin Harrison Jr. So hopefully with the Lions, that offense continues to roar like it did last year. I was in a weird spot. I don't really like starting out with a running back. I don't ever do it. The only hesitation I had was I've drafted Puka in most spots here at the turn like this. Puka and Harrison have been my double tap most preseason. There's just been a lot more buzz around Cooper Kupp recently. And this offense still runs through Cooper Kupp, they say, and that doesn't mean I think Puka's going to have a bad year, but it did kind of give me some hesitation here. So I went with Gibbs, so trying something I don't ever do. Why not do it today? But I think what really this means is I'm going to have to just pretty much double tap wide receiver again here because I didn't get, 2 high powered wide receivers, which is what I like to have going into drafts.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's hard to I know Puka's he doesn't really have any injury concerns anymore, and we want to think that he'll duplicate what he did last year, or at least close to it. But a healthy Cooper Kupp does change the equation a little bit. So I think that makes sense to be a little bit on edge. And Jahmyr Gibbs is such a home run threat at running back that if you don't take him at the turn, then you obviously have no shot at him.
Absolutely.
Going forward. I was looking at gamblers picks, and those 3 wide receivers on paper, I think they look really good. I think you and I are both a little bit lower on Devontae Adams this year. That being said, on paper, he's got wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 that are both kind of wide receiver 1s, and then Nico Collins at your flex. You do feel good about that if you're a gambler. I'm just a little uneasy about Adams, and then also with Collins and the crowded receiver room in Houston, I think could be an issue. I think Nico Collins is the most likely to be the most productive, but there's still a little cause for concern. Not that there's anything ever super, set in stone when it comes to fantasy. It's hard to do consistency, but there we have it. Who are you thinking for now?
Has Pittman gone?
Nope. He's right there at 40th overall.
So right now, I there's one that I'm locking in, baby. There's one I'm locking in here. And why don't I just give my quick spiel as I always do? Because as my handle says, you are still too low on Rashee Rice. I talked about him the entire draft last week. Couldn't shut up about him. I had to make a video about it because I couldn't stop talking about him. Rashee Rice is never getting past me in this spot. I think that it doesn't. I think his ADP is still like in the 7th round. I have him right up here with Devontae Smith, Debo Samuel. I have in this range. Jalen Waddle I have a little bit higher, but I see he went right there. Nico Collins I have ranked down here in this range. These are guys that I don't mind getting, but the upside with Rashee Rice and the way this offense could absolutely explode this year with the defense probably taking a little bit of a step back. They went out and got guys like Hollywood and Xavier Worthy because they want to throw the football. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to put the ball back in Mahomes' hands more often than not this year. And I think Rashee Rice is going to be a PPR machine. I am going to just go ahead. We're going to talk about some, you can call them flag plants, superstars, MVP. My wide receiver pick of the year this year, Rashee Rice. He's going to be a top 10 PPR wide receiver. I'm locking it in. It's my call. I'll be here all year talking about it.
Yeah, I like that pick at all. I think our first, what was it, the mock draft? I took him and we were like, wait a second, that was we were surprised that he wasn't gone yet when the time I took him. And so I think as soon as we found out that there was going to be no suspension, it was definitely a thing where there's really no reason to be down on Rashee Rice. Because Mahomes, he didn't have statistically a super amazing year last year by his own standard, but that means that it really should only go up. And if Rashee Rice is the guy there that has the most rapport with Mahomes, it checks out that he's going to have a big year. Devontae Smith, I like that pick as well at the turn. So you're pretty set at receiver/flex. I think that's a good start over there at the turn.
Yeah, a good young core. Devontae Smith is on an offense that I think they have some things they got to work through, but I think that they're going to be able to take a step forward. If I'm thinking about the end of last year, the Eagles obviously ended the season pretty poorly. No Jason Kelce this year. That's gonna stink for Jalen Hurts and company. But I think that this is still a pretty good offense. I think that Devonta Smith is going to have opportunity. Plus, he has some contingency value too, right? Mm-hmm. But really, you're banking on just high volume there. As the number 2 weapon at wide receiver.
And I think Devontae Smith's floor is pretty safe, especially getting him where you got him in the 4th round. So if he's technically your flex, I think that's a really safe floor. But he is high end wide receiver 2 upside. I mean, we saw even with AJ Brown on the field, if Goddard misses time and Dallas Goedert does miss time, like AJ Brown's going to get his, but Devontae Smith's going to get his as well. And I think that he'll be pretty productive. Let's say we had Diggs go, so we got 2 out of the 3 Texans receivers are now gone. Malik Neighbors at 4-4. I kind of like that pick.
Neighbors and DJ Moore were two of the guys that I was thinking about in my head versus Devonta Smith. I like DJ Moore. The reason I took Smith in this just over those two guys is simply because we've seen it before. We've seen it out of this offense. We've seen it out of Smith. We've seen it out of DJ Moore, but not with Caleb Williams. We haven't seen it out of Malik Neighbors. I think I have high upside plays already in Marvin Harrison and Rashee Rice. So I kind of wanted to take what I felt was a more consistent play in a Devonta Smith.
Yep. All right, we see Stroud go getting a little stack with Nico Collins. That should be pretty productive. And we still have Jalen Hurts on the board. That's interesting.
Stroud's a little early, I feel like there. What I should do while you are prepping for your pick, and then I'll let you kind of talk through your pick, is recap quickly the first round. If you're here with us in the chat, let us know how you think, is taking Rashee Rice at the 3-4 term absolutely ridiculous. Is taking CJ Stroud in the middle of the 4th round. Is Lee just going crazy there? Let us know in the chat. Join in. And we'll also answer your week 1 questions. So if you have week 1 questions, start sit decisions that you're trying to make before tomorrow night, maybe, right? Throw them in the chat. We will talk through that with you today. And I will let Josh take his pick here.
Yeah, this is throwing a wrench in my plans here. I did not expect Jalen Hurts to be here this late into it. In fact, this is kind of where I like a Trey McBride. And he's one of my guys that I think can be really good. Obviously, I'm not going to be taking Trey McBride with Sam Laporta, having taken Sam Laporta in the previous round. I think I have to go Hurts here just because I think value point to get my quarterback off the board. I typically like waiting, but he's one of the top 4 in my opinion. Like you said, Stroud went a little bit early. I understand getting that stack, but I kind of like I think from a straight up fantasy perspective, Hurts still has the higher potential with the rushing upside. So I'll take him there and feel pretty good about that. Oh, there's Trey McBride going one after. Yeah. Actually, the Pittman pick beforehand, I was strongly considering Michael Pittman just because he has an odd amount of low touchdown numbers. And at some point, if the Colts start throwing to him in the red zone, like he could be where we kind of expect him to be for a guy that gets the volume that he gets. So it would have been hard for me to turn down Pittman there.
I have Pittman ranked right at that 3-4 turn with Rice and Smith and Neighbors and Moore. Mm-hmm. I think all those guys are right there. I was surprised that Pittman fell that far down to nearly all the way back to you. So that would have been an interesting situation for you.
Yeah.
Nate, our defending champ, Nate out of the 2-hole, double tapping the tight ends with Mark Andrews and Dalton Kincaid. That's interesting. Kev gets a couple wide receivers, Tank Dell and DK Metcalf. That's for as like high T as he started with C-Mac, A-Chain, and Josh Jacobs. And now you're saying like I can start DK Metcalf and Tank Dell every week. Doesn't feel bad. I mean, that's right. I think he's really. I know he's also podcasting, so he's probably having a hell of a time going back and forth. But all these quarterbacks going a little earlier, a couple Mark Andrews, a couple tight ends going a little earlier than normal. I think it really helped to push some of those wide receivers down to him.
Yep, for sure. And speaking of wide receivers, I can't wait any longer. A guy I haven't talked about on this show very much, but I like George Pickens. I've always thought he's a pretty elite talent, and there's no target competition in Pittsburgh. I'm not saying they're going to be a high-powered offense, but I think he should get a really high target share percentage. I toyed with the idea of Kenneth Walker there. I have Ken Walker in one of my leagues, and I think that he's still the stud in Seattle and will be pretty productive. But since I kind of went hero running back, I'm not ready to get back into the running back train quite yet. Because again, Bijan is ideally, one of those elite talents that can make up for some of it if my RB2 is a little bit, not quite at that top tier level. So I like Pickens there. He's got the upside now that Brandon Ayuk isn't going there. Like that was the rumor that Ayuk was going to get traded to the Steelers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Russell Wilson's going to produce or going to get Pickens where he need him to be. I'm kind of on the train where I think Justin Fields will be starting before long. And I think he's got enough to fund Pickens as a fantasy wide receiver, not necessarily for winning a ton of games. So I like Pickens there as a wide receiver too. It's a little bit of a risky pick. He doesn't have He's definitely not as proven or as consistent as all the other wide receivers off the board, but it was about in his ADP range, so I don't feel like I reached too high, and I think his upside is some of the best out of the receivers in this range. So,
right after your last pick went your tight end of the year. Why don't you tell a little bit about at 410, Hat Trick Hughes takes Trey McBride.
Yeah, so I think honestly Trey McBride could be the tight end 1 this year. I think Kyler Murray's in for an up year, and I think that offense is gonna, it's gonna be competitive. I keep referencing Week 18 last year against Philadelphia that Kyler looked good. The Cardinals' offense looked pretty good, and their defense isn't going to be great either. So they're going to have to win by putting up points. And so I really like what they did with Trey McBride last year, and I think he could easily be a tight end 1 or the tight end 1. And right where I took Hurts, if I didn't take Laporta in round 3, that's where I was going to take McBride. I think at that value, it's really good because he's going as the 3rd or 4th tight end off the board in a lot of drafts. And I just think that he is outside of what we think Marvin Harrison will be. Trey McBride's the best weapon on that offense outside of Marvin Harrison. And so I think that, they run screens with him. They get him the ball, kind of like they get Kelsey the ball in KC with those little shovel passes. They're going to get McBride the ball. So that consistency with some big playability at tight end. I love that pick at 410. I think that's great value for a guy that might lead all tight ends this year. And if I didn't take Laporta, like I said, I don't want to reach for McBride quite yet, but I wouldn't even be upset if you took him in the 3rd round, to be honest. I'm that high on him. I'll call it tight end 1 on the year, Trey McBride. We got to be bold here on ADP.
Let's go. Tight end 1. You don't have to talk me into anything, Kyler Murray. I think this offense is going to be excellent this year. And I think Kyler Murray is going to be a discussion point for me here at the 5-6 turn. Yep. I don't know that I'll take him there, but and if the guy on the 111's listening to me and takes him, so be it. But I do think he'll be in discussion for me there. We didn't really talk too much about the first round. We had already finished 2 rounds before we even got in here. It started out pretty safe. Everybody really took the guys that we expected them to take up until Dan Portillo. Yes, the Dan Portillo out of the 110 spot, who used to co-host this exact podcast, took Saquon Barkley at the 110 spot. I wasn't a big fan of it. I don't think you're a big fan of it. I don't think Dan's a big fan of it because he's not a running back guy. But yeah, he took Saquon there out of the 110 over Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison and over Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think that was I would not ever have done that. But Josh, do you have any thoughts there? Is that something that you liked? Is this way too high on Saquon?
Yeah, to me, it's way too high. I love Saquon, and a couple years ago, I thought he was washed when he came back from his injury, and he proved me wrong there. He got back to a pretty elite level talent, but I just think that in Philadelphia, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and they don't throw to the running backs with the volume that you'd like, right? In New York, Saquon was the offense, right? So he was getting tons of carries and tons of receptions, and I just don't think that volume is going to be there for him. And then you have the injury history. And if I'm banking my fantasy season on him as my RB1, and not just my RB1, but my 1st round pick, like if you 0 RB and somehow he fell to the 3rd or 4th round, then I'm on board. But I think in the 1st round, there's too much there that makes me nervous. That feels way too high to me. But who knows? I mean, he's still Saquon Barkley, so I guess we'll have.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then he followed that up with taking Josh Allen at 203. Which is not as big of a leap of faith, but it does seem still early for me. Everybody else in the 2nd round was pretty on par. Brandon Ayuk gets paid. Nobody's worried about him anymore. Nate takes him at the 211. So it didn't take him long to get back up at the top of the board.
Yep.
In fantasy draft.
I like that start. I like that start from the 2 spot, by the way. You get CeeDee Lamb, who could easily be the 101. You get Brandon Ayuk, who could put up close to wide receiver 1 numbers. You get Pacheco, who could very have easily gone in round 2. And so you have a lot of good value there with some of the high end players to get started. I'm high on Kincaid too. I don't like taking 2 tight ends where he took 2 tight ends, but I mean, he can start both of them. So there's if he's got Andrews at the tight end and Kincaid at the flex, they're still going to be starting every week, if that makes sense. It's not like he has to bench one and wait for a bye week or anything. So
Alvin Kamara went. Oh shoot, he sure did.
Yep.
Oh God. All right, I'll just take Kyler.
Oh, all right.
I was locked in on Alvin Kamara. I didn't realize he was already taken.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, dang it. I was gonna take Kyler was on the list here anyways. I was gonna take Kamara just because I think he's gonna be a PPR machine.
Right.
In New Orleans, they don't have really anybody else except for Olave to throw the ball to.
Right.
And Shaheed, deep. But so I was gonna take him. I actually still even today have Anthony Richardson ranked higher than Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
I think Richardson is a smash pick.
Yep.
I think that the fact that guys like Joe Burrow went at the 5.5, way long above Anthony Richardson at this point. I mean, anybody who's going to get Richardson here, Mike could take him here at the 6.4, or he could fall all the way back. I don't foresee anybody taking two quarterbacks at this point.
Yeah.
I like to think we're drafting with sharp people. So anybody at the back end of the 6th round, if it gets past Mike, could take Anthony Richardson. I think that will be great value for a guy like Anthony Richardson.
Yep, he would be a steal here, in my opinion, as well. He's one of my flag plant guys. There's a world in which I don't take Laporta, I take McBride in the 4th, and then I take Anthony Richardson on that 5.4, assuming Hurts is gone. I got thrown off because Hurts lasted a little bit longer, but
yeah.
I think Anthony Richardson has QB1 potential, and you're getting him at least a good in this draft. You're getting him 2 rounds after the top 5 quarterbacks, so that's a steal. I
have him at quarterback 5.
Yeah.
This year, so
that makes sense. You could easily be afraid of his style of play. He's raw and he got hurt last year, but you can't draft with that sort of fear. You have to draft with the upside, which is even as a really, really mediocre to below average passer, he's an elite fantasy quarterback. And so if he stays healthy, whoever takes him here in this round, where I'd expect him to go now, is definitely feeling good.
Evan Ingram goes to Gambler there in the middle of the 6th round. I 100% expected that. Tyler says it's all about the stack. That's fine. Nothing wrong with going and getting your guy and stacking up with sense. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. I just think that if you look at the board and you see that, between your next 2 picks for the 6 already had quarterbacks and guys like Anthony Richardson and Kyler Murray were still on the board, Joe Burrow is probably not going in that. And so sometimes you could play the board and push it a little bit so you don't feel like you're overdrafting a quarterback just to get the stack. And then you could get a guy like, say, Ken Walker in that situation and then Joe Burrow in the 6th. Like, I think that could have happened, and I think his team would have looked way better had he – that would be my only pushback on, like, yeah, we can get the stack, but I would have rather push it one more time before I did that. I took Kyler Murray. He is my flag planet quarterback. He is my guy. He is the quarterback for me. I've talked about him up and down, all around. Like, everybody knows it by now. This entire offense, you talked about Trey McBride earlier, so this entire offense I am quite high on, as I have Marvin Harrison at the 201. So I've actually taken 2 of my 4 guys. That was not the plan, but I do love getting these guys, and I love getting them at the places I got them. Kyler was never going to come all the way back to the 7th. Right. And then Tyler goes ahead and goes 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league in the first 6 rounds.
And now
he's buying the dip on Anthony Richardson.
Yep, and he's got the stack now with Pittman as well. So he's got 2 good potential stacks, and he left me one of my second of my 4 flag plant guys, Ramondre Stevenson. He's not exciting. I get that. He's not exciting at all.
I love him. I've always loved Ramondre.
His floor I think I've talked about it on this show. His last year's 12.1 fantasy points per game. That's not exciting, but he only had 4 touchdowns. I get that the Patriots are bad, but I just feel like that his numbers could only go up. And if that was his floor, I'm very happy with him as a low end RB2 again, assuming Bijan hits, right? If Bijan Robinson is what I think he is, then I don't need Ramondre Stevenson to get 20 plus points a game. I need him to get at least 12 and be something consistent in my starting lineup. And I think getting him in the late in the 6th round is good value. I didn't have to reach for him at all, and I'm feeling pretty good. And I don't know if I mentioned, but Olave was one of my other flag plant guys, just because I feel like we might have talked about it. I can't remember now. I think I maybe started the show with that. Now that I'm blanking on it, sorry. But yeah, I think he's wide receiver 1 potential. And because I took a running back, especially in the first round, I like that I got him in the second. But Ramondre,
you got 3 of your 4 guys. Wow. Right?
No, I have 2 out of my 4.
You didn't take McBride. You didn't take McBride. That's
no,
right.
I wanted McBride, and my 4th one was Anthony Richardson, who went right before that pick. But Anthony Richardson, I would have taken him around earlier if I hadn't taken Hurts. So, but I was doing the same thing you did. I didn't want to just take my guys just so I could talk about them, but I wanted to still make sure I was playing value to the best of my ability. So, but yeah, I like Ramondre there.
I took my quarterback and my wide receiver. My running back guy this year, my flag plant, is going to be James Cook, who DC Portillo took him at the 407. I really like that value for him there. Yeah. A guy that, had I taken Puka instead of Gibbs, I would have taken Cook probably at the 3-4 turn with Rashee Rice. I think James Cook is going to be everything there needs to be for the offense in Buffalo. Really like his ability to catch passes. They're going to run the ball a ton. They ran the ball a ton at the end of last year. James Cook, top 5 running back this season. I think it is well in the range of outcomes, and I think that is where he ends up in 2024. I really like James Cook. This offense has not a lot of options.
Yeah, and I think in our mock draft, I took James Cook a couple rounds earlier than that. I remember we were talking about that. I was going to do all wide receivers. It was a 3 wide receiver league, and I got tempted by James Cook. And so I think getting him at 4.7 is really good value. Because that ball is going to be spread around in Buffalo. They have some weapons, but none of them are proven, and they don't have to feed Stephon Diggs as much as normal. So, or as much as they've had to in the past. So I think that's a good pick.
Before you talk about your Xavier Worthy pick, I just want to note Christian Kirk again falling back in the 6th. I have Christian Kirk in my top 60 overall ranks. I rank wide receivers a little higher than most. It's a PPR league, so of course I'm going to push them up a little bit more. But for Christian Kirk to fall to the back end of the 6th, it just feels like we're gifting Kev this great team when he took a what I think was auto picking into 3 running backs.
Yeah.
And now he's got 3 straight wide receivers who 2 of them are the wide receiver 1 on their football team. Yeah. And then you have Tank Dell, who could be the fantasy wide receiver 1 on the Houston Texans.
Yeah, it would be really risky to start that way on purpose, but if that's how it ends up, I think he's feeling great. He can wait and take whatever tight end he sees at value. Speaking of value tight ends, we have George Kittle going.
Finally.
And then Dak Prescott, he very much could produce as a top 6 QB as well at any given week. So that's a nice quarterback to take there. I took Xavier Worthy for the upside there at the 7-4. I didn't like a lot of what was around. I mean, Kittle would have been great value for me as well, but I already had my tight end. I'm not going to do a second tight end necessarily, or not yet. And I wanted to get another receiver in the room because I only had 2, so I went with the upside pick there. We were talking about the Chiefs offense. Hopefully it gets a little bit more explosive again this year, and I think Worthy could be the beneficiary there in addition to Rashee Rice. So feel good about that upside pick. Probably start as my flex or first guy off the bench. We'll see. But
a couple names are in the news right now. Jamar Chase, he goes 105 here in this draft. I'm just interested, one, to hear your thoughts. Like, you took Bijan.
Mm-hmm.
Was Chase in the conversation there for you? Are you spooked by this contract situation? And then, I mean, what do you think? Is he hold out? Is he going to play on Sunday?
I think they'll find a way to get it done. And I think there will be very few things to worry about. Honestly, I look at the 1-1 through the 1-9 in this draft, those 8-9 guys, those 3 running backs, and then the 6 receivers. You could maybe even throw Garrett Wilson in there for me. Obviously, but Garrett Wilson definitely more of the back half of the first round. I think you can justify any of those picks is what I'm getting at. I think that Chase going to 105, I feel like that's good value. I like Jamar Chase. I am a tad worried, and this is how I kind of make the tiebreaker. I'm a tad worried that we have another Joe Burrow dinged injury or something weird like that. He seems to have really bad luck. And again, I wouldn't suggest drafting that way, but when I'm sitting there and I just Bijan, I felt like I could get a leg up there. I'm a little worried about, like I said, a little worried about Burrow there, but honestly, I would have been happy to get Chase. I almost took Justin Jefferson as well. I've said on this podcast that I don't have any worries about him. He's going to get fed regardless of who the quarterback is. Our offense might not do much beyond that, but he should be fine. St. Brown, I think, is going to put up really consistently big numbers, and A.J. Brown as well. And I think Breece Hall at the 109 is extremely good value in terms of a running back who's going to get a lot of touches. So I like anybody in that first 9. I don't think I would have taken Bijan over Tyreek Hill. I think I would have had to take Tyreek Hill if he slipped there. But those top 3, I don't think they're ever falling there. So.
And Dan is now on auto draft, takes Brock Bowers, and Raheem Mostert goes. Oh. Well, that was weird. Did anybody else see that?
What? I heard the cheer.
It auto-picked Brock Bowers, and then all of a sudden it just changed to Keon Coleman. What just happened?
Did it almost auto-pick and he got in just in time or something?
Maybe.
That's super bizarre.
Wow. All right. Well, that's interesting. So for me here, I could use a second running back. But there is a guy. Yeah, he's on the board. Okay. So I'm going to take Calvin Ridley. I think there are 2 wide receivers left on the board here that I think are massive values. And that's Calvin Ridley and Deontay Johnson. I have both of them as like my low end wide receiver 3 range. And so for me to get them at wide receiver 4 back into the 7th with a little bit of upside, especially PPR upside. So I'm going to take that. And then I got to get a running back, and there are actually a couple that I like here. I like Jaylen Warren here. I think Javonte is still available. I like him in this spot. Let's just go to running backs. Who else is here? I hate the ADPs. I think they're trash. I don't like looking at that. Man, I should have just passed on Kyler. There's a lot of quarterbacks there I like too. Zamir White I have up here. I think he's going to have high volume. I think I'm just going to go Javonte. It feels a little bit riskier than Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is somebody I really like and was almost my flag plant.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is Javonte's backfield. They got rid of they cut P. Ryan. They have come out. It sounds like McLaughlin is going to be the change of pace guy, not necessarily the guy.
Yep.
Williams now, over a year removed from his injury now. He had some run last year. I think that he could have an explosive type season.
Yep.
And this is just one of many RB2s that I will be trying to draft here towards the end of this draft as I try to kind of run my hero RB in Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep. And I think Jaylen Warren fell quite a bit. And he's still kind of coming back from the fact that he got injured during the preseason, but he's basically on track for week 1. So I think the longer we wait, obviously the Jaylen Warren value goes up, because I think regardless of, I don't think Najee Harris is going to be that bad either, but Warren is going to get a lot of the higher value touches, I feel like, and put up the bigger plays for Pittsburgh. So out of the backfield, we see Zach Moscow.
I was going to also mention you mentioned the Jalen Warren last week on the show. They were asking me in the chat if I thought Jalen Warren would overcome Najee Harris. And my point was in fantasy, I think so, because I think he's explosive. I think he's going to catch passes a lot better than Najee Harris. And I think he's going to be much more efficient than Najee Harris is. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are just going to turn around and hand it off to Jalen Warren 60% of the time, which they will do with Najee 60 to 70%.
Yep.
So I don't think in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, I don't think Najee Harris or Jalen Warren is going to overcome Najee Harris, but I do think with efficiency and with explosive plays, I think Jalen Warren will outscore Najee Harris in fantasy football this year.
Yep, for sure. I think it's a classic case of, the fantasy community likes a guy, but the NFL coaching community, they don't think in terms of fantasy, and so we have to try to navigate that a little bit. Because I agree with what you said there. Hollywood Brown goes. When is he coming back? Do you know?
He's obviously not playing tomorrow. I would be surprised if we saw him even next week, but I think he'll definitely be there by week 3. He should be back and healthy. If we do see him next week, I don't think he'll be fully implemented into the offense.
Gotcha.
It seems a little early for Jonathan Brooks there.
Yeah, because
high upside play, but you've already got 3 other running backs. You got, pretty good ones too, and Jonathan Taylor and James Cook. Didn't seem like you needed it there. Tyler's obviously listening in, which we appreciate. He does go ahead and snipes Jalen Warren potentially from you. But he locks him in with Najee Harris. And so I'll be interested to hear your take on that when you're done picking here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with – I just went with my upside pick with Xavier Worthy last round. I'm going to go with a little bit more of a proven guy. I know he's dealing with some stuff, but I'm going to take DeAndre Hopkins here. I think the Titans will have some fun on offense. They let Will Levis throw it around. He won't be super efficient, but DeAndre Hopkins is someone that's good. And there's our Deontay Johnson. I figured he'd go pretty quick after. I don't mind having the whole backfield if that's what we're talking about with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I have a league where I have Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and so I feel good about that league and just having, I'm not saying either of them are going to be amazing, but I feel like I'll have guys I feel good about starting, especially if one gets dinged up if there's sort of injury. But Caleb Williams.
Yeah, you'll get it. You'll get to go back. I think the hardest part, if they're both healthy for 17 weeks. Right. You might have a little bit of a ping pong effect.
Yep.
And that's going to be frustrating as a manager.
Yep.
Unless you're just going to lock them both into your starting lineup. But I think if locking them both into your starting lineup, you're going to lose some upside in your lineup.
It's hard to go double running back in from a same team in a starting lineup. I saw a guy try Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon with the Packers one year a couple times.
Yeah.
It just wasn't exciting. Like you just feel like when one of the guys scores, you just lose out on that opportunity. It's not even fun to watch because it feels like a sting. Ooh, we're back around to me. And I'm going to snag a guy. It's a little bit further down because we're not necessarily looking at ADP necessarily, but a guy that's usually gone closer to his teammate than this. And so I am going to go back to running back. I'm going to go with Chase Brown here.
Yeah. That's nice.
I think he's that big home run hitter that Cincinnati has. And, Zach Moss has done really great as a spot starter and as a guy that fills in when the guy in front of him gets hurt. But I think Chase Brown is too talented to not be on the field. So I think at worst he's a flex right now when they're both healthy. And, he has the potential to overtake Moss or just have those big plays that make him more worthy of a start. So I like that value there. They've been really close in ADP all offseason. And so to be able to get another receiver before I took Chase Brown, I felt really good about that there.
Yeah. I like the Chase Brown pick. Right after your pick, Jordan Addison goes. Addison in the news today for good things, finally. Sounds like he is going to be ready to go this week. Do you feel confident about that as a Vikings fan? And do you think that he's going to bring pretty decent fantasy value week one, or should we be kind of holding him on our bench for a couple weeks to see how things go?
I would, to be honest, I'd be worried about starting him just until we see what Darnold looks like. If it was last year, I'd say go ahead and give him the start. He had a really amazing rookie year last year, but you have to remember that Jefferson missed, I think, seven games. And Addison had a really high touchdown rate. He had 10 touchdowns. And so that's going to be hard to duplicate, if Jefferson is healthy all season and he's the wide receiver too. That being said, he looked every part of the season veteran. I mean, his catches on the sideline, his catches in traffic, his ability to get deep and get those deep touchdowns. Like, there's a reason why people are valuing him. And so I definitely like the pick pretty late in the draft, and I think he's definitely capable of it. I'd be a little nervous to start him just to see how Darnold looks. And the nice thing for Tyler is, he's got Chase, Drake London, and Michael Pittman. So he doesn't have to feel like he's got to bench one of those guys for Addison. And then if Addison takes off, then he goes, okay, my 9th round pick is now going to be my wide receiver too. And he's going to feel good about that. So.
Austin Eckler goes, I'm about up again, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so we have Watson, JSN, and Jameson Williams go back to back here also in round 9. It's kind of all these guys fit in the same tier, even Brian Thomas to an extent, even though he hasn't played at all. Like, these are all guys that we've expected more from, and so it's one of those things where if their talent hits where we've predicted their talent to be, these are going to be really great values. But Jameson Williams is, I think it's a really good late round dart throw in that offense, especially with the reports out of camp that he's running more routes. He's not just the guy they send deep anymore. And Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't run the same type of stuff either. So I think he's got some options there. And JSN, I think, looked pretty good at times last year. So could easily put up bigger numbers this year. So some nice late round receiver dart throws for the guys that took receivers so far. Oh, and even, sorry to cut you off if you were going to start, Trevor, but even Josh Palmer at the 9-11. I know I've been super high on Ladd McConkey all offseason. I still am. But, there's something to be said for the fact that Josh Palmer's got the most experience as a receiver over there in Los Angeles. And so if Herbert's clicking, Palmer's going to get something every week at least. And so a pretty safe wide receiver 2 potential there with Josh Palmer at the end of round 9. So.
Man, I'm going to punt tight end at this point. I already know that. Essentially, once I didn't pull the trigger here with Higgins and Murray, I didn't take Kyle Pitts. I knew I was going to probably be punting. Bowers would have been my only other thought, but
yeah.
I'm sitting on 3 running backs. I've already drafted 5 different wide receivers. We've got some more spots. There's a lot of people left. This is something I don't ever do. But I'm going to go ahead and hedge my quarterback flag plant because I think Jaden Daniels should have been taken a long, long time ago.
Oh.
And I never take 2 quarterbacks. I don't think it's a smart move. But I also don't think there's any reason he should still be on the board at this point. The guy's going to run all over the field, very similar to Lamar Jackson and Anthony Richardson and Jalen Hurts to an extent. Like this is who he is.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb. I don't like the tight ends here, anyways. I've got who I think are 8 wide receivers / running backs who I could start any given week. Mm-hmm. I feel really great about them right now. I don't feel like I've reached anywhere. So I'm going to just take the value the value I believe is the value and take the quarterback that I have ranked as quarterback number 9 this season and Jaden Daniels.
Nice. I love that value. I mean, he does have that rushing upside. Are you willing to plant a flag, Trevor, about the amount of rushing yards Jaden Daniels will put up his rookie year? I've heard the reason I said that is I think I can't remember which podcast or which people I was listening to. One of the bold predictions was that Jaden Daniels was going to be another quarterback to throw for a certain amount of yards and rush for 800. So
800.
That was a bold prediction someone made. So it wasn't
Okay.
like for sure going to happen, but that's what he was talking about with the upside. Kind of the same thing you were talking. So I was curious if you had I know you already put your flag down for Kyler Murray, but for Jaden Daniels, you willing to say an over a certain amount of rushing yards? Putting you on the spot.
I looked at Lamar's rookie season because I think Jaden Daniels is similar. He's not as athletic as Lamar is. Like Lamar is he's a different beast, right? So
Right.
he's not as athletic as Lamar, but I do think he will scramble in a similar way that Lamar scrambles. Lamar doesn't he has some quarterback runs, but he scrambles very, very well.
Yeah.
And he can when he scrambles, he can rip off 30-yard runs.
Yep.
He won't be doing that tomorrow night. But any of the other 17 games this year, maybe he will. So he had 695 rushing yards.
Okay. His rookie year. Okay.
His rookie season. So I'm taking the over. 700 rushing yards for Jaden Daniels, baby.
I love that.
Let's go. 7. And they're not going to be. I talked about, I think, a couple weeks ago on here when the footballers came out with the stat about the scrambling is like worth 1.5 points as a designed quarterback run. Not every single time. You're not automatically just getting a 1.5. But the premise is the stats that they're receiving, the amount of yardage that they're running on a scramble versus a designed run usually comes out to 1.5 more fantasy points. I think he's going to be scrambling a ton this season. So give me the over 700 rushing yards for Jaden Daniels.
I love that. I love the bold prediction there. I think that would be pretty awesome. Since it's getting pretty late in the draft, I'm going to reach a little bit for a guy who I think could have more of an impact on an offense where we have to see how things get divvied up a little bit. I'm going to make sure this guy doesn't get taken before me, and I'm going to go Khalil Shakir here.
I like that. Yeah.
My receivers, I like my first one, and I mentioned I like Pickens. I like the upside of Worthy, but I have a lot of question marks in the receiver room, and so I unlike some of your other teams you guys have here, I'm gonna have a thought each week about who's getting the 2 receiver spots and who's getting in the flex most of the time outside of Chris Olave, and so I'm just gonna add another option to that option pool. Make sure that if Shakir takes off with Kincaid and Josh Allen's throwing it everywhere, he might end up being my flex on a lot of weeks. So we're gonna grab him there, so he just in case he wouldn't have made it around.
While I was going on my Jaden Daniels rant, Jerome Ford goes right after me, the second pick of, what are we in the 12th round? 10th round.
10th round, yeah.
He was looked at by me at that turn. I ended up going Brian Robinson. He's a starting running back for the I didn't realize till just now I double tapped the Commanders. So, I mean, what can go wrong? I just take 2 Commanders. But Brian Robinson is the RB1 in Washington. And if we look at all the running backs who have been taken in the 9th and 10th round, other than Devin Singletary at the 901, the rest of these guys are in either committees or they are the number 2 that we're just, banking on high upside or contingency value.
Yeah.
And so Brian Robinson Jr. is the running back for the Washington Commanders. Let's take the RB1 there.
Yeah. Jerome Ford, I wasn't even thinking about him because I'm not a huge fan of the Browns offense. So I've been overlooking Amari Cooper in a lot of drafts, but speaking of RB1s, Nick Chubb might be out for like 6, 7, 8 weeks still.
Yep.
He's on the PUP list now. And so, you have Jerome Ford on a team who he has produced before. He's proven they have a good offensive line. Like if their offense can move the ball, Jerome Ford could be a steal at the 10:02 there as well.
I like that a lot. I just got a good smile because our man, our Colts fan out of the 101 gets his guy, Adonai Mitchell. That's good. Good for him. I was kind of surprised. I guess he didn't quite get back to him at the 6. I bet he was salivating, hoping that Anthony Richardson would fall to him to the 6-12.
Oh yeah, that would have been.
I'd also be interested to know, like, would he have taken him at the 501 had he been here for those first 3 picks and not taken 3 running backs, right? Like,
Right.
Say, whatever, he takes Devon Achen still, but he gets Mike Evans or Nico Collins or Cooper Kupp at 301. Like, would that have pushed him maybe taking Anthony Richardson at 501?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because that round 5 is kind of where I think we were expecting him to go, and the fact that he fell even further. So yeah, I wonder. We'll have to ask him. I wonder if he would have done that.
Our first defense goes off the board at 11:02 to the defending
Ravens
champ Nate, who also got his Chicago Bears fandom rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. A little surprised he didn't stack Caleb Williams here with another rookie there in Chicago, but oh no, he's gone. Wow, he's long gone. I didn't even see his name up there. Wow, he's gone way before I would. Maybe that's why I didn't see him.
Who are you talking about?
Rome Odunze. I didn't realize he went in the middle of the 7th.
Yep.
Wow. I've been looking for him in the 9th and 10th round.
His ADP was super high. He was up.
Wow.
One of my picks, I saw him up the top of my list. I was like, that's too early for me for Odunze. I love Rome Odunze. It was too early. So I can't remember where he went either. I'm going to make a pick here that is more of a strategic. Maybe it helps me win a few games early. A little bit more depth in the running back room. I'm going to take Chuba Hubbard here. This is not a pick that I'm like, yes, Chuba Hubbard, the Panthers. This is hey, he's going to be starting. He's going to be starting, and I want him to get those valuable touches early on. Might help me be the difference between 1-3 and 2-2 or something silly like that. Trying to be as strategic as I can. And we'll hope that some of my other guys that I think will fall stay falling. I'm not going to talk about them yet because I don't want people to steal them from me.
You can't do that. Tyler says, tell your boy I will trade Richardson. Kev is probably here listening if he's done with his show. So you can tell him yourself, Tyler. That's already getting some trade talks going on here.
Love it. I like the Trey Benson pick that went last round. It was about a round ago now. I'm still high on him as a rookie. I know that he hasn't been super excited. I know James Conner's there, but we talk about this Cardinals offense as being pretty productive, and I think there's going to be a lot of options. And James Conner misses a few games a season. So while he's been really solid, if Trey Benson is who I think he can be, I think he's going to be a nice pick there, especially in the 10th. What was
wow.
that? 10:06. So.
Yeah, and Gambler's second running back. That would be my only worry.
That's a good point. I didn't realize that.
Going 6 wide receivers: St. Brown, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, Odunze, Hollywood, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I love the wide receivers. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
Now he's taking a second tight end, though. That doesn't help me. Herbie is on auto pick, so that's not great for him as he takes a kicker.
Justin Tucker. Yeah, the kickers are starting to throw off the ADP if anyone's still using just the chalk what Sleeper has, because there's a lot of kickers now in between skill positions.
All right, so
Dan got the Chargers backfield. Nice little handcuff.
Oh, he took Gus.
He took Gus.
Dobbins. Yeah. There are still tight ends out there.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go that direction still because at this point I feel like they're all kind of the same. There is one running back that I like quite a bit that I believe is on the board. Enrico Dowdle.
Oh, there you
because
go.
He is way, way, way down the ADP. So I will take him for sure. Tack on a 4th running back here. And then let's see what I got. Did Dallas Goddard go? Yeah, he's gone. It's kind of hard to try to keep up and.
Yeah, Goddard. Oh, Goddard is the 10:05. Yep. Okay.
Just looking through some of these. I know who I want. Let me check running back real fast before I do this. Jalen Wright, Ty Chandler, a couple kick returners apparently. I think there's more running backs later. Wide receiver, Rashid Shaheed. I haven't taken him a lot in redrafts this year, but I think is great contingency value should something happen to Olave.
Yep.
I don't love this offense. I don't really believe highly in this offense. But, you know, when it comes to a pinch, I got really what I think are really great 5 wide receivers ahead of him.
Yep.
And so I'm not needing to rely on Shaheed at least until the bye weeks. And then once the bye weeks hit, maybe I get a bomb or two to Shaheed down the road.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I think if that offense is anything, he'll definitely have a role as well. So there's definitely some upside there. Then we see Mike Williams go, Tyler Lockett, Trevor Lawrence. That's a good pick late. Is that the second quarterback? Yeah, I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, behind Stroud.
I think Lawrence had a lot of missed touchdowns. I was watching some clips of how many near touchdowns by receivers with feet out of bounds. Like I think Lawrence is a nice pick that late. And then you have the upside of Xavier Legette. Be interesting. Again, we're counting on Bryce Young though in the Carolina offense. I'm saying that for myself too because I took Chuba Hubbard. I'm hoping for some.
Got to remind ourselves that it's still Bryce Young there.
Right. Like
in Carolina.
Who knows if the Panthers offense is even going to be on the field enough to produce points? We'll have to see. But
couple guys here I'm still eyeing.
Oh, nice. Okay, I wasn't going to stay running back here, but a name you just kind of briefly mentioned in passing, a guy who flashed a lot for Minnesota. I think Ty Chandler's got a chance to eat into Aaron Jones' volume, just because Aaron Jones is a great running back still, but he's up there. And if you look at the games that Aaron Jones played for the Packers last year, I know he was battling injury, but they saved him for down the stretch. And down the stretch, he killed it. He had 100 plus yards in the last couple of games of the season, plus the playoff game they won. But it was really hit or miss before that, and that was when he was hurt. So if he's fully healthy, I expect him to put up more earlier on in the season for the Vikes. But at the same time, you know, he's not going to be a workhorse. And Ty Chandler proved that he can earn his keep back there. He improved his blocking. He improved his blitz pickup and his blocking in the backfield last year. So I think I got some value there with Ty Chandler. We'll see if it pans out.
Yeah. Jalen Polkos, he was in the running instead of Shaheed. It's been weird. Every draft I've been in, Demario Douglas has been higher on ADP, which is just odd because I think Polk is the number 1 wide receiver in New England, but I saw in Sleeper he's a higher. So ESPN and NFL both had Polk very buried in ADP, but not Demario Douglas, which was just interesting. Justin Herbert goes. It's starting to thin out here a little bit. Hawkinson goes. I still stand by every time I'm in any draft and he goes. I stand by it. I still think he's the worst pick in fantasy football. We're not going to see him until Thanksgiving. Even if you have an IR spot, like IR spots, at least you can put him on the IR spot, but people get hurt and people are out for like a week or two sometimes, right? Like Hollywood Brown, for instance, is going to be out for a week, maybe 2. You put him on you don't want to drop Hollywood for, whatever that week's pickup.
Right.
But if you take a guy like Hawkinson just to put on your IR spot, you're taking that flexibility away from your own roster, movement and those kind of things. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to see much of him. And I think even when he comes back healthy, I don't think he's going to be fully healthy.
Yeah.
And we don't know who the quarterback will still be. I'm sure as a Vikings fan, you hope it's still Sam Darnold. That would mean things are going well.
Right.
But we can't say right now that Sam Darnold's going to be the quarterback during on Thanksgiving. So
Right.
I don't know. I just think I think it's a wasted pick, and you're taking him in the 13th round when there's still guys who are valuable to be taken.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think there's a lot of stuff up in the air about when he comes back and what sort of production he'll have for sure. All right, this is an interesting pick for me. I don't want to go kicker defense yet. And so I got those 3 bench spots. I'm actually feels weird, but he's not on the Packers anymore. So I'm going to give old Aaron Rodgers a shot here. And the reason I went with Rodgers here, I don't plan on starting him every week or anything like that, but in case there's a world in which Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are kind of falling off and they're not as great, and Rodgers and Wilson click and Breece Hall and the Jets are good with that defense, figured I'd get an insurance policy at quarterback. I don't always take a second one, but since we're down to the last couple picks, I figure that's got, in a weird way, some upside. But again, we don't know what Rodgers is going to be when he comes back, but I think I got some chance there to have another good quarterback this late in the draft. Figured I'd go for it. There goes Jalen Wright. I was going to point out, I think the Jordan Mason pick is a smart pick for Nate there at the 13 too, with Elijah Mitchell out for the season, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely, I know they drafted Isaac Guerrero, but Mason is a little bit more proven. So in any chance that they're spelling McCaffrey or McCaffrey misses a game or two, I think you got a nice little RB2 there in round 13.
Absolutely. So we have Jalen Wright just goes off the board at 13.5, and the manager of that team taking Jamar Chase, Drake London, Travis Kelce, Michael Pittman, double tapping the quarterback, Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson. He is going to join us now. Tyler, welcome in. We have so many questions for you, man, because I've never seen somebody tap tight quarterback as fast as you tapped quarterback tonight. First, though, how you doing? And then give us an explanation.
Oh, doing great. Got the girls to bed, so had to hurry up and do that. But I just seen value with Richardson there. I seen trade value. At the end of the day, it's easier to do that when you have someone that's fallen that far down, and hopefully old Kevin here, supposedly you're listening. I'm open. Line's open. Give me
Line's open. I love that.
Yeah. So Josh Jacobs, I'd love to take him on my team if you want your boys. So we'll throw him out there.
We're going to go Josh Jacobs for Anthony Richardson. Kev, if you're here, tell us in the chat. Do you like the trade offer that was just thrown your way?
We could have this done before the draft's even over.
Tyler, you've now taken 5 running backs, 2 of them from the same team. How do you feel about this running back team? Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Zeke, Blake Corum, and Jalen Wright. So a couple backups as well. Some contingency upside there. How are you feeling about? I mean, you definitely went 0 RB, which I'm going to love that part of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I've stole that from you from the last couple of years. It's worked well for me, not in this league, but in other leagues that I've definitely took you down with. So, but more of on the Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, kind of just that handcuff. I'm not really sure who's going to take that backfield over. Harris, they have the high draft capital with, but it's one of those things. Warren, I think, could take him over this year. So I figured going back to back with them, trying to take up that whole backfield. They don't really have Pickens anymore. That kind of would take some of those runs away from him every once in a while. But the only other thing I was afraid of is Jalen or what's his nuts?
Jalen Wright.
No, Fields. They keep talking about possibly moving him.
Oh yeah. Oh, Justin Fields at quarterback.
Yeah.
Dude, you know he's coming in by like week 5, man. Russ ain't it. I don't even care that he's the captain of the football team. You can be the captain of the football team and still suck. And I think that's what what's gonna happen with Russ.
Yeah. I have no faith in Russ anymore. Russ did win me a few back about 6 or 7 years ago, but not anymore.
Back in the good old days.
I like Zeke. Zeke was named starter this week, but you were taking my handcuff with that too. I was going to go back with Rico, but you got me there. Being a Cowboys fan, I figured I might as well get the whole backfield there because no one else is going to take it.
Well, you've been watching the show every week. I know you have. You got to know by now. I am a Rico Dowdle stands.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about. So you are a Cowboys fan. This backfield is high ambiguity. Like we have no idea really what's going to happen here. But being a Cowboys fan, how do you feel? How do you feel the backfield's going to shake out?
I really have no faith in this backfield. To be honest with you, I think Zeke.
I just spent an 11th round pick on him. What the hell?
Well, I just know there's going to be touchdowns there. Zeke is going to be your goal line to 3 yards out, just like what he was before at the end of his career there at Dallas. Rico's going to be your first down back. I was trying to double tap on both of those and go there, and I don't really see anyone else in the folds from what I've been reading / just looking. There's no one else there. I guess you got Dalvin Cook coming in, but I don't even. If you guys, did he end up signing, or is he just
a practice squad? Yeah, he's just a practice squad right now.
His last year. Oh, sorry to cut you off. His last year Minnesota wasn't as good as his numbers projected, so I don't know how much of a threat he'll be.
And that's what, to me, he's just like Zeke. He's a running back that's been rode hard, put away wet. So, just that's what happens when he hit 30.
Did you write that joke before you got on here? You're like, all right, I get to jump on the show.
Yeah, jump on the show and just give all my stuff. Got to give them all 3 things, I can say.
I was gonna go back quick to your Steelers backfield again, Tyler, if you don't mind. I think another interesting thing as the season starts is now that Arthur Smith's there as the OC, coming from Atlanta, it'll be interesting to see how he uses both of those backs, and you might get a tell after a few weeks about who's going to get which plays, and that might help decide to start, assuming they both stay healthy. But and then if one of them goes down, then you have a pretty easy wide receiver or running back 2 starter right there. So
yeah. All right, I may have to jump off here to take this pick for a second because I'm on my phone. So hold on one second.
Oh, sounds good.
Tyler is on the clock. I'll go real quick. I went ahead and took Dontavian Wicks and Isaiah Likely. Wicks, I think, is incredibly athletic. I think he has I think he's a good prospect. He's buried in the depth chart in Green Bay. Obviously, I think he's like the 4th wide receiver. But if he can find himself a chance to get onto the field in a league that's a little bit, I wouldn't say we're deep by any means. I think we're still pretty standard, but deep into this draft, I don't mind taking a guy like Wicks. And then I finally took my tight end, which I still almost didn't take. I almost passed, but I like Isaiah Likely. I like Isaiah Likely for tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And I'll just draft him now just to start tomorrow night. We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
And if it's very clear he's not going to get the run that we think he's going to get, I can drop him, find a different, tight end next time. So,
sure.
Josh, you just took a tight end as well.
Yep.
Tell the people about Ben Sinnott.
Ben Sinnott, however you say it. I've been high on him all offseason. Most draft experts that I was looking at the big boards, he was the best receiving tight end outside of Brock Bowers. And since not that hero tight end is a strategy or anything necessarily, but because I have Sam Laporta, even if he has a down week, Sam Laporta is going to start every week aside from his bye. And so I like Ben Sinnott as a rookie upside pick that will get that 1 week start for me, or in case of an injury, hopefully the Commanders offense is what we're thinking it's going to be, which is at least putting up some level of points. So I like him as a contingency plan. And late 14th round, I'm just looking at places to bolster some depth. And so I figured it was okay to get a second tight end here, especially one that I don't feel bad sitting, because no one's going to start over Sam Laporta, but in the event something happens, I have a guy that I'm excited about. So I feel pretty good about him.
Nice little backup there.
Yep.
Tyler, we only have one more round before we kind of start shutting it down, because nobody cares to watch us take a bunch of defensive kickers. So before you make your last pick, I'm going to keep you on here until you make your last pick. And when you get, since you have to get off, make your pick anyways, right? So before you make your last pick, I want to know who do you think has the best draft so far? And it doesn't have to be Josh Rod. Like, just anybody else on the board. I guess it could be yourself too, but you took 2 quarterbacks in 6 rounds, so don't say it's yourself. Who do you think has the best draft so far?
Who is in slot 2 there? I can't quite read it. It's hard to see on my phone.
Our defending champion, Nate.
Yeah, I really like that one. Besides the 2 back-to-back tight ends, but I understand why with Andrews. Because he's amazing when he's on the field, but you get him about half the season. I guess also the early defense pick there. He must be like the old Ravens there, but I do like that. Mostly just their first 4 picks. But I think that's mostly because I'm a Cowboys fan, and I was hoping to God that CD was going to fall, because he will be wide receiver 1 this year. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I feel like you probably died a little inside once you saw you had the 105. You're like, oh, come on.
Yeah, I'm just outside that.
No hope for CD anymore.
Yeah, you're not getting it.
Now
that he's signed. If we did this like 2 weeks ago, you may have had a slither of hope when he wasn't signing, but
I would have took him.
Once he's slid, now he's there.
I don't know.
And there goes your kicker too. No, you can't get Brandon Aubrey anymore either.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to do as well as he did this year. He already used his long one this year. So,
in the preseason. Well, who are you going to take here with your last pick, Tyler, before I let you go? We appreciate you jumping on. It's fun to kind of get a drafter's perspective. Like, I wish I could talk to all 12, all 9 of 10 of you all who are in here with us. Cause I just want to know, like, what was your thought process? Well, I think Anthony Richardson, I can trade him later. It was too great a value. I'm scooping the value. Okay. That makes sense. Right. Cause I can sit here and speculate all day long, but it's kind of nice to hear from you and just understand what the thought process behind those kind of picks were. But who are you looking at here with your last pick? So Josh can snipe you.
Yeah,
I'll be fair. I'll snipe it before you say his name, because I knew you were looking at Tyrone Tracy like I was.
Nah, you can have him. But I was really looking at was old mini men, Ricky Parcell. If it would have been last week, we would have had that.
Yeah. I think he's probably going to be out for a little while, though, unfortunately, with the gunshot wound. Well, you have a minute left. So real quick, tell us if you want, or if you want to just say you don't know, so you can go draft too. I don't want you to.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I haven't been able to watch it with being on my phone. Next time I'll be more prepared. And
well, we appreciate you jumping on here. We will we'll go ahead and let you get off here so you can go pick, and we'll talk shit on your pick, and it'll all
Thanks,
Trevor.
Tyler.
I wouldn't expect anything else.
That's right. Tyler, thanks for jumping on. Go make your pick. You got 40 seconds.
Yep.
Go do it. Nice.
Thank you, Tyler. That was fun. I do like getting perspective from people, like understanding where they're drafting and what they're drafting.
Right.
I actually have a favorite as we kind of wind down this draft before we get to the very end, and then we're going to wind down.
I have a favorite. I have a favorite too. It'll be interesting to see if we have the same one.
I just want to, shout out everybody who's been here all night watching. The chat obviously hasn't been as active tonight. It's a little bit difficult when we're drafting to be active, but we sure appreciate you all being here and lurking in the background. Hopefully we've given you a couple pointers. If you are here, if you have any questions about week 1, start sits, anything like that, throw them in the chat now so we can hit them right before we leave. But Josh, my favorite is this one picking out of the 111, getting Garrett Wilson, Puka, Jalen Waddle, Rashad White, Amari Cooper. He waited on quarterback all the way down to 8-2. And Jordan Love, I liked that quite a bit. I really like this. I really like this makeup. I like the way that he picked. Maybe I don't take Kirk Cousins there, but he waits forever on tight end against Luke Musgrave. This was my favorite. This was my favorite draft.
Yeah, I can see why, and I leaned that one a little bit for a while as well, especially that Jerome Ford pick is more and more looking like potentially one of the best picks of the draft, just because of how late it was and how much of a starter volume he could get with Cleveland. And his first 3 receivers should be wide receiver 1, 2, and flex for pretty much the entire season. So yeah, I like that draft a lot. My personal favorite actually though was I'm going to go over to DC Portillo. DC Portillo is my favorites. If I had to pick one, obviously a little, obviously a little biased to my Justin Jefferson, but I think Jonathan Taylor fell really late. That was good value. I think getting Patrick Mahomes off the 3rd QB off the board. We talked about the James Cook value after that, and then the George Kittle value after that. That we talked about the Jonathan Brooks dart throw maybe a little early than what I like, but you have some upside with Watson and Leggett, but then you have some more proven guys like Sutton and Myers and Cook. So I think he should be in good shape for a receiver. And I don't mind Taysom Hill. I'm not drafting Deshaun Watson anywhere personally, but by the time those picks came around, I think he's going to feel good about his team going into the season. So
yeah, I think he did a really good job just hammering the wide receiver here in rounds 9 to 13, 5 straight wide receivers.
Yep.
After taking 4 in the first 8 picks.
Right.
That's a lot of wide receivers and 8 picks. 4 picks of your 8 or running backs, excuse me.
Yeah.
4 running backs in the first 8 picks. That's a lot. Plus you're adding both your onesie positions in quarterback and tight end. So you only take 2 wide receivers in a PPR league through the first 8 rounds. That feels thin,
right?
But I think he did a nice job of getting Christian Watson, who's going to be on the field for 90% of Jordan Love's dropbacks. Should he be healthy?
Right.
I know he's always got hamstring issues. It seems. Cortland Sutton is the wide receiver 1 in Denver. He's forgotten year after year, but he's going to be there. He's going to get his run. Jacoby Myers is going to run out of the slot there's just there's volume here, right? And there's guys who are going to be on the field running routes for their respective teams. So I think he did a good job of just kind of rebounding from what I think was probably a sketchy start, taking somebody like Jonathan Brooks at 8-7 instead of I would have if he takes Deontay Johnson there.
Yeah.
And I think this team is even better.
Yep, for
than
sure.
Taking Jonathan Brooks there.
For sure.
All right, Josh. Just to quickly recap, I'll recap my team and then my 4 flag plants, and then I'll have you do the same.
Okay.
So at quarterback, I have Kyler Murray in the 6th, and I took Jaden Daniels, who was falling tremendously, I think, in value. So I went ahead and snagged my 2nd quarterback, which is rare for me to do in a 1-quarterback league. Jahmyr Gibbs, Javonte Williams, Brian Robinson, Rico Dowdle, and I just took Khalil Herbert in the 15th round, right before defense, a guy who I think could get a lot of run in Chicago. But again, he's being pushed way down the boards because they brought in DeAndre Swift. At running back, I've got Marvin Harrison, Rashee Rice, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Rashid Shaheed and Dontavian Wicks. So a really great 5, and then a couple of dart throws at the end. And then I took Isaiah Likely as my tight end. Feeling pretty decent about this team, honestly.
Yeah.
I love my starting lineup at least. I feel like my bench has a lot of high upside type plays, but my starting lineup, I feel really comfortable going the first couple weeks with that lineup there. Josh, run down your team. Oh, sorry. My 4, just to recap my 4 real fast. Kyler Murray, James Cook, Rashee Rice, and then Hunter Henry is my tight end. I did not take him here because I want to play Likely tomorrow, but I'm flag planning Hunter Henry as he's going to end the season as a top 10 tight end. And I think he's going to be like the streaming tight end of the year. I think he's going to be the guy that every single week somebody's talking about. You can pick up Hunter Henry and you can play him. And I think especially if Drake May gets in sooner rather than later, it's going to open this offense up quite a bit. So I kind of went way off the board with my tight end, but I think Hunter Henry has an opportunity to end up as tight end 10 should he stay healthy. Josh, run down your team and then remind everybody of your top, your starting 4.
Yeah, and I'll do one more segue from your team. I think yours is a good example of punting tight end. I think Isaiah Likely in the 14th round, so you could get all those other picks. I think that worked out for you pretty well.
Then I'll just stream it, right? If Likely, just stream tight end every week.
And Hunter Henry has had a history of just getting in the end zone, so I think that's going to be that's not bad at all. So my team started out. I went Bijan with the 104 because even though I talk about wide receivers, I get too tempted for my running back. So I went hero RB. But I still got one of my flag plants, Chris Olave, in the 2nd round. And it's not that I think he's going to be the best wide receiver in fantasy, but I think that at ADP, I think he's going to produce where you want him to at wide receiver 1. And so I especially like him in this situation where I got a stud running back as well. My second flag plant in the draft would have been Trey McBride, but because I took Sam Laporta in the 3rd round, because I do think that was good value for Sam Laporta, I think Trey McBride has the upside to be the tight end 1. So I would have maybe taken him in the 4th round if Laporta hadn't been there anymore, if I would have had the chance to, but who knows if he would have lasted at that point. So I went Bijan, Chris Olave, Sam Laporta, and then I went Jalen Hurts. And so I took one guy from the 4 positions right off the bat. That isn't I don't like to do that necessarily either, because then I feel like I'm just filling roster spots instead of picking values. So that makes me a little uncomfortable. That being said, taking Jalen Hurts as the 5th quarterback overall, I think was good value. And so I didn't want to pass that up there. Then I recognized I needed some skill player depth. So I went George Pickens, Ramondre Stevenson, Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Brown through round 9. I mentioned Ramondre Stevenson there. He's one of my flag plants. Talked about it during the draft. He is a really good floor RB2 in my opinion. I think pairing him with a hero RB like Bijan is a good strategy. We'll see how it works out. But I think that he's going to be consistent. He's going to get so much volume. The next guy on the list is Antonio Gibson, and I know in the fantasy community we like to get excited about Gibson every year to some extent, but he never ever produces. And so if this offense does anything in New England, Stevenson's going to be a part of it. So I got him at round the 6.9 is my second RB. I already mentioned. After that, I took Xavier Worthy for the upside, then DeAndre Hopkins for the experience, Chase Brown for the upside, and at the 9-4, I took Khalil Shakir in the 10th, Chuba Hubbard, Ty Chandler, Aaron Rodgers in the event that the Jets are for real, Ben Sinnott, Tyrone Tracy, a couple of rookies, Ben Sinnott at tight end and Tyrone Tracy at running back. I know Tracy plays for the Giants, but he's a former wide receiver converted running back. And so if this Giants offense can get clicking, I think he has a chance to contribute as a rookie. And I finished up with the Steelers defense and Daniel Carlson at kicker. So I feel pretty good there. My flag plants, I don't think I mentioned them all during that. Anthony Richardson's my quarterback. I think at the value and the fact that he's got QB1 potential. I mentioned Chris Olave, Ramondre Stevenson, and then Trey McBride. I'm drafting him wherever I can and taking him wherever I can. I'm going to be very, very surprised if I'm going to be very, very surprised if Trey McBride isn't an elite tight end.
Who's the bottom? New Orleans? Are you calling New Orleans bottom 5?
He's probably calling the Giants bottom 5 and New England and maybe maybe
Oh,
New Orleans,
New England, New
and
Orleans.
maybe New Orleans as well.
Yeah.
That is Pete Josh. These are Josh guys. These are guys that
Yeah.
no one else can understand why they're going to be good except me. So they're going to be good. It's weird.
I love Stevenson. I've been a big fan of Stevenson since the early days of Vermondre. The Olave one is the one that worries me the most, just
That's
because I think I don't know. Dennis Allen just like talks shit on his players, and it's just weird. I don't know how good New Orleans is going to be. So that's the only one that kind of bothers me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But you got him at 2.9. So your flag play aside,
Right.
getting him this low, I think was great value.
Sure.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah, Simon was saying Pats and Saints. Nate says he's got the best team and he is going to go back to back. He's trying to be our first and only 2-time champ, since this is only the second year of the ADP Fantasy League. We are going to get out of here. Josh, any last words from you?
No, best of luck to Nate. You're going to prove everybody wrong with that Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid back-to-back tight end picks. We're all going to be talking about it next offseason as the new fantasy strategy. So,
yeah,
best
it feels like this is probably one of my least favorite teams, and that's probably why he's going to win.
Exactly.
Probably why he's going to win.
Yeah.
Well, follow us on Twitter at ADP podcast _FF. We will be here every Wednesday night live, 8:15 Central Time. Next week, we'll recap week 1 finally, right? We got football tomorrow night.
Yes.
We'll recap week 1. We'll get into more of a weekly, I would say, cadence, and have some start sits, answer your questions, those kind of things. So we're definitely excited about that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube page at Bite Size Sports. We're trying to get to 700 subscribers. So we are sitting at 675 right now, 25 to go. If you would, it is free to hit the subscribe button. Hit that like button on your way out. It was a blast drafting with you all. And until next week, good luck in week 1. And hit us up on Twitter, Discord, whatever. We'll help you out and set your lineups. See you later.